Okay. Okay, I'll be starting in just a minute, guys. You got questions or comments, put them down there. Let's put down here. Whatever, Google Plus. All right. Welcome back. Sorry we couldn't do this on Thursday. It was unavoidable. I had to work that night, which does happen sometimes, you know. But I'm back and kind of been looking forward to this one for a few days. Ever since, well, since Wednesday when Arrow did what they did. And I've had kind of a lot to say about that one. But first things first, I'm in a new room now. Yeah, this is the first stream from my new computer that I got recently. You know, new surroundings in here, which is nice. Plus, I've got this comfy chair, which is much better than my other one that I was using before. And yeah, no dinner. Feeling a little weird. But I had some soup earlier. I just haven't had much of an appetite. So I got some saltines here and my fruit smoothie also. And I don't think we'll have to worry about technical problems because the computer is brand new. If there are technical problems, I will be pissed off because I spent a lot of money on this. Anywho, let's get this show a-rolling. As usual, we'll be starting with The Flash. This was episode 17, Tricksters. Barry and Joe are investigating Harrison Wells now. Meanwhile, a guy who seems to be aping a lunatic named the Trickster, who's been locked up for 20 years, starts causing havoc in the city. Barry knows that he has to keep pretending that nothing is wrong so Wells doesn't get suspicious, but Barry's poker face isn't so good. And by the end, Barry has decided that Wells is somehow the Reverse Flash. Dun dun! I guess the first thing I need to mention here is the really jaw-dropping opening sequence in the flashback with the two Flashes fighting each other around Barry's mom in slow motion. I saw that and I was like, wow. I don't know how they pulled that off, but that was impressive stuff. Just great VFX work on that. And I really enjoyed this whole Eobard Thawne thing. You know, finally learning what happened 20 years ago. The Reverse Flash mystery is easily the most compelling story the show has going for it. So anytime they focus on that, it's a safe bet that it's going to be really good. The one thing I had to kind of tilt my head at was how he came to be Harrison Wells. I thought there was going to be a lot more to it than that. And they were going to have this really elaborate explanation with wheels within wheels and all that sort of stuff to explain why it wasn't his DNA on the walls or whatever. Instead, it turned out to be incredibly simple. Thawne just happens to have a body-swapping gizmo with him that can put his brain into Wells' body just like that? Really? That's the kind of thing he carries around with him? Take that with a grain of salt. Some things about the timeline were a little confusing, too. Apparently, the particle accelerator wasn't supposed to be built until much later, but he makes it happen years earlier. Doesn't that mean he created the Flash much sooner than Barry was originally supposed to become the Flash? How does that work? I was a little fuzzy on the details here. Still, the body swap sequence was really cool, even if it did seem awfully convenient and maybe a little too easy. But damn, the real story here was Mark Hamill. Reprising his role as the Trickster from the early 90s Flash series, this guy was so much fucking fun. They go from this Silence of the Lambs homage in that first scene, where he's actually legitimately creepy, to him just throwing caution to the wind and being completely manic and loony and batshit insane and obviously having the time of his life. Hamill is chewing every molecule of scenery on the screen, and it is glorious. 5 minutes in, and he was already one of my favorite guest stars this show has ever had. I love that they got some scenes with him and John Wesley Shipp, too. Those were really cool. They were kind of pushing it, though, in that one scene where he tells that younger dude he was secretly working with that, I am your father. Really? Really, show? You just couldn't resist, could you? For that one moment, the show became a self-referential joke, and that was not nearly as clever as I think the writers thought it was. But you know what? I can forgive them this one. And aside from Hamill himself, I really like the Trickster just as a villain. He may have had a knowledge of pop culture references that realistically he probably shouldn't know if he's been locked up for 20 years. But this is another bad guy who's able to realistically cause the Flash problems just by being clever. You know, now how he had a bomb that explodes if you run less than 600 miles an hour is head-scratching. But the guy was just so much fun to watch that this didn't really bother me. Something I didn't get, though. How does Barry get rid of the bomb? He learns to phase his body through solid objects. Okay, but if he's phasing his body and his costume, why isn't he phasing the bomb too? I mean, the bomb was attached to his hand, so wouldn't it have phased with him just like the costume did? I didn't understand that. That's a pretty minor gripe, though. Also, we get some really nice scenes with Barry and Joe. Their whole investigation of Wells is nicely handled, as well as the scenes where he's scared about possibly losing his dad. Good acting in these scenes. This was really poignant, actually. The stuff with Barry and his dad is always great. And they created an interesting situation where Barry has to pretend that he doesn't suspect Wells and kind of sucking at it. But then realizing that whatever crimes he may have committed, he's also helping Barry and doing good things, even if he may have evil intentions behind them. He wants Barry alive for some reason. So Barry sees that in a weird way, he actually can trust Wells up to a point, at least until he makes his move. And I like this a lot. It's a tough dilemma for Barry to have. It makes for some good drama, and there's no easy answer for it. That's good stuff. And another thing this episode had going for it, no crappy love triangle. They don't focus on that. Instead, they reveal Barry's identity to Eddie, bring him in on this, and move Iris into something that promises to be a lot more interesting than her being a love interest for two guys she has no chemistry with. I'm sure the love triangle isn't going anywhere, but for right now, this is a much better use of both characters, in my opinion. Flash rebounded very nicely after last week. This episode was a vast improvement. The reverse Flash backstory is really interesting. The investigation into Wells was very well handled. Mark Hamill was awesome. And anytime they can get John Wesley's ship back is always a great thing. Yeah, there were a couple of details that I had a few questions about, but nothing major. Overall, I really like this episode a lot. And we had a whole bunch of Twitter questions this week. So get to those now. All right, I say one scene, and Hamill himself is already one of my favorite guest stars Flash has had so far. Pedro Lunian says, Hamill himself, Mark Hamill, he's a great bad guy. Oh, yeah. He was the Joker on Batman the Animated Series. He's awesome. At Pedro Lunian, why doesn't he advertise who he is to the world? At this point, only Iris, the journalist, doesn't know. Yeah. Yeah. You think you think that she's had enough clues by now that she probably should have guessed or suspected that Barry might be the Flash? It is kind of makes her look stupid. Her being an investigative journalist and her being the only one that doesn't really know the secret. Why he doesn't advertise who he is to the world? Because, for the same reason that all superheroes keep secret identities. It would put their loved ones in danger, Although that he may not have much of a secret identity for much longer if people keep finding out who he is, because it seems like that's happening every week now. Let's see. Strippin19 says, my theories about the Flash. 1, the Flash and Eobard Thawne have a Dr. Rivers Song relationship where the first time Barry meets Eobard is the last time Eobard meets Barry, while the first time Eobard meets Barry will be the last time Barry meets Eobard. 2, that Eddie is the show's version of a comic book character named Malcolm Thawne, who is both an ancestor of Eobard, like Eddie, as well as Barry's twin brother. Did not know that. The story goes that the night Nora Allen gave birth to twins, a woman named Charlene Thawne was also giving birth. The doctor accidentally killed Charlene's baby, and rather than tell anyone, switched the dead Thawne baby for one of the live Allen babies. 3, by the end of this season, there will be a second particle accelerator explosion that will, if you believe the article I sent you, will give Cisco and Caitlin their powers, send Barry into the Smallville universe, and give Eddie Flash powers. The reason Eddie would get Flash powers is because, as we learned from the Weather Wizard brothers, when two people with similar genetics are exposed to dark matter, they gain the same powers. Okay, you may have some good points with some of this. Why would Barry get sent into the Smallville universe? Explain that one to me, man. I don't understand that. God, I hope that doesn't happen because Smallville kind of sucked. So with Eddie secretly being Barry's long lost twin brother, I don't think so, man. I don't know. That's a little out there. But all that stuff about the first time and the last time they meet and stuff like that, yeah, maybe. Who knows? Excuse me. Wow, no comments, huh? No one wants to weigh in on Flash? All right. Well, we will continue on. And time for Arrow. And whoo boy, some people may not like what I have to say about Arrow. Arrow Season 3, Episode 18, Public Enemy. Maceo kills the mayor while posing as Oliver, which sends Quentin off the deep end in his efforts to capture the Arrow. Then Ra's al Ghul tells Quentin that Oliver is the Arrow, making the fact that Quentin couldn't figure this out on his own all the more infuriating. Oliver turns himself into the police, only for Roy to then pose as Oliver and tell the police that they've got the wrong man. Also, Ray Palmer takes an arrow in the chest and almost dies, which the person running the CW's Twitter feed thought that the fans would be upset about, but it turns out the only reason the fans were angry with is that the arrow didn't kill him. Awkward. This was easily the most frustrating episode of Arrow that I've seen in some time. There were a lot of big revelations and story developments here, so much that I'm not sure the show can go back to the way it was before. In fact, I'm almost sure it won't. So, if you take it casually at face value, it seems like a really pivotal, game-changing episode where a lot of momentous stuff happens. But then you start picking it apart. And when you look a little closer and really think about everything that's going on here, I think you'll agree that there are a whole lot of story elements in this episode that do not add up whatsoever. First, I'll mention some good things. I liked Paul Blackthorne's performance a lot. Even though I really don't like where they're taking the Quentin Lentz character, he's doing a good job selling it. There are a ton of inconsistencies with it, but that's the fault of the writing, not with him. The scene with him and Oliver in the truck at the end of the episode was very good. The whole "you're not a hero, you're a villain" speech. He put a lot into that. And you really feel all the pain and rage behind it. And I think what few redeeming qualities there are in this storyline are because of Paul Blackthorne's acting. Also, I think the Ray-Felicity relationship finally struck the right note. And by that, I mean they kind of either put the brakes on or course corrected and acknowledged that he's more into her than she is into him. Why? Because Felicity's in love with Oliver. It doesn't make up for doing this whole fucked up relationship in the first place, executing it the way they did, with Felicity being somehow charmed by a lot of behavior that was pretty damn creepy. But here they spell out that, yeah, maybe she wasn't as charmed as we thought. Thank you, Mama Smoke, for spelling that out for your should be a lot smarter than this daughter. Also, the entire sequence where Arrow, Arsenal, and Black Canary are being chased by the police, trying to evade them and get away, this comprised almost an entire act, it felt like. This was a whole crapload of action, and it was pretty damn good. This was a very harrowing sequence, and that almost goes without saying for Arrow by now. I mean, I don't think I need to tell anyone how good the stunts and action sequences on this show are. For a show that looks like it's produced on a fairly modest budget, they're fantastic. But on the other hand, the story of this episode is a complete fucking mess. what we're looking at here almost feels like the character assassination of Quentin Lance, because they have him doing some profoundly stupid and out-of-character things here in an effort to make him an antagonist while disregarding a lot of his past behavior, things he's done, things he's supposed to know, making the whole thing just impossible to swallow. Quentin sees Maceo, who he thinks is the Arrow, kill the mayor, and then take a shot at Felicity. He misses Felicity because of Ray Palmer. But first question, Quentin knows that Felicity works with the Arrow. Okay? He has known this for some time now. So the Arrow suddenly trying to kill Felicity for seemingly no reason doesn't seem strange to Quentin at all, when the Arrow already told him that there was someone posing as him committing these murders in his name. He doesn't think that's weird or suspect even a little bit. This doesn't set off a single alarm bell in his head. So Quentin reinstates the anti-Arrow task force because of this. Second question. Quentin knows that Felicity works with the Arrow. He knows that Roy Harper works with the Arrow. He knows that Roy Harper is Arsenal. That being the case, they surely know who the Arrow is, so you would think that the very first thing Quentin would want to do is have Felicity and Roy arrested so he could question them. For some reason, this never even occurs to him. Why? Never explained. Never even brought up. Maybe you could argue that he doesn't have enough evidence to arrest them, but, you know, he could put a tail on them, have them followed for being under suspicion. He could do something. Anything other than just completely ignoring the fact that he knows that they must know who the Arrow is. Why does this never come up? But even if you buy the lack of proof excuse, which in itself is a big stretch, that didn't seem to be an issue when Quentin outed Oliver as the Arrow to the news media without a single shred of physical evidence. He does this on nothing but the word of Ra's al Ghul, an infamous killer and leader of the League of Assassins. This guy Quentin thinks is a credible source? Really? Sure, he was telling the truth, but for God's sake, if a compulsive liar hands you a cyanide pill and says it won't kill you, that doesn't mean you're not a fucking idiot if you swallow the goddamn thing and happen to survive. Bear in mind, this is like 3 years after Oliver Queen was arrested under suspicion of being the Arrow and proven innocent in the first season. And now, just because a murderer who Quentin has no reason in the world to trust tells him that Oliver is the Arrow without offering up any proof whatsoever, Quentin goes on TV with this and announces it to the whole world. He doesn't think about this for 1 second. In any other universe, Quentin would be throwing away his career by doing this. And in the event that Oliver gets exonerated somehow, Quentin would almost surely get booted off the force. Why has he decided to not use his brain at all? This is stupid. And again, I have to point this out. Quentin figured out Roy Harper's secret identity literally 10 seconds after meeting Arsenal for the first time. 10 seconds, that's all it took. Just one look at him and he could just tell. Okay? But somehow, he didn't know Oliver was the Arrow after meeting the Arrow in person multiple times over 3 years. They tried to cover that up with him saying that, oh, deep down, I think I always knew it was him. But that's a bullshit excuse and you know it. He made Roy just like that. To suggest that he couldn't do the same for Oliver is just dumb. Ra's al Ghul outing Oliver to Quentin just felt like a big retread of Slade Wilson outing him to Laurel last season. And it wasn't anywhere near as well done as that was, because all this really accomplished was pointing out how stupid Quentin was for not figuring out that Oliver was the Arrow by himself. Then again, maybe that's not out of character. Because one thing this episode made very clear is that, unfortunately, Quentin is just not a very good detective. And he does a lot of other dumb things here, too. He puts out a shoot-to-kill order on the Arrow. 5 minutes later, when the police are chasing the Arrow, he tells them to hold their fire. Yeah, he doesn't want his daughter Laurel to be shot and killed, but how does he explain that? How does he explain telling his men to hold their fire when he just ordered them to shoot to kill? How does he do it? The answer is he doesn't, because the writers never even bring it up. It just goes completely unaddressed. And then at the end of the episode, so many people on Twitter were raving about this cliffhanger. I thought this was ridiculous. Roy gives himself up to the police, telling them that they've got the wrong man because he, Roy Harper, is the Arrow. If the police actually fall for this, if Quentin falls for this for 1 second, and from the promo for next week, it looks like he does, at least at first, then I don't think there's any possible way you can fix this character. Quentin has met the Arrow in person many times. He's met Roy Harper in person more than once. He already knew that Roy was Arsenal. He knows that the Arrow and Arsenal are 2 separate people, and he knows there's a pretty significant height difference between the Arrow and Roy Harper / Arsenal. The Arrow is easily over 6 feet tall. Roy is noticeably shorter than that. One look at him and you can tell plain as day that this is not the same guy. For Christ's sake, a blind man could see it. Plenty of cops must have seen the Arrow in person when he saved the precinct from that attack a few episodes ago. They know how tall the Arrow is. What, are they all going to believe that he just somehow magically shrunk 6 inches? The fact that Roy even thought this would work in the first place is ridiculous. The fact that apparently it actually does work is even more idiotic. I'm sorry, but this is downright insulting to the audience. It's like they think we're stupid because you'd have to be stupid to actually think this is good. The one and only thing that made sense here was Roy's motivation. You can see why he'd want to turn himself in, because he feels guilty about the cop he killed when he was on Mirakuru last season. Deep down, he thinks he deserves to be punished. So you know where Roy's coming from, but that does not excuse the rest of this. Quite frankly, it all feels like a bunch of bullshit to me. I'm really beginning to hate this whole storyline. They're trying so hard to vilify Quentin Lance, and you could do that and make it work, but the storytelling is so flawed and so full of holes and inconsistencies and things that don't make sense. In their efforts to make this character more dynamic and interesting, they've kind of ruined him. Quentin doesn't feel like a man who lost his daughter and is so blinded by pain and grief that he's not thinking clearly. He just feels like a terribly written character now. And I don't know how you fix this. I don't even think they can fix it. I think his fate has been sealed. I think Quentin Lance will maybe realize his mistake and try to redeem himself, possibly help the Arrow do something, and then he'll get killed. Which at this point would almost feel like shooting a horse with a broken leg. And apparently, the stupid was contagious or something, because there was a lot of other dumb stuff that happened this week, too. Laurel tries to call Team Arrow and warn them that her dad is onto them. Quentin tells her that the cops are already on their way to arrest them. And then Laurel doesn't make the call. I would think that Laurel would want to dial faster to warn everyone and give them a chance to get away before the police beat their door down. But instead, she just doesn't bother making the call. Why? Never explained. Ray survives taking an arrow in the chest. Ray Palmer does. And now he has a blood clot that will kill him, but will likely cause him brain damage if it's removed. But that's okay, see, because as it turns out, Palmer just happens to have a dose of nanotechnology at his lab that was apparently designed for the purpose of fixing a medical problem exactly like this. Wow, that is really fucking convenient. And it doesn't need to be modified or programmed or coded or anything. Felicity just picks it up at the lab, injects him, and he's fine within a few seconds. Are you kidding me? What's more, they try to milk some really contrived drama out of this by having the doctor refusing to let Palmer use the stuff. Okay, so tell the doctor to fuck off, check out of the hospital, go to the lab, and inject yourself with it there. So what if he won't let you leave? You're chairman of a huge company. You've got more money than God. You can get around that problem any number of ways quite easily. This is not complicated, guys. The fact that they tried to get anything out of this ridiculous notion of the doctor not letting him inject himself with this magical nanotech that could save his life was so stupid. Instead of that, how about you have him inject himself with this stuff straight away and then play up the idea that there's a good chance it might kill him and spend a while on Palmer fighting for his life as the stuff takes effect? That at least would make sense. This? No, not so much. And then the flashbacks. Apparently, Shadow had an identical twin sister that we've never heard of until now. That in all the time she knew Oliver, was in a relationship with Oliver, she never bothered to mention. And Oliver just happens to run into this woman on the streets of Hong Kong while he and the kid are being chased by Argus. That is a really goddamn huge coincidence. And this is another thing that just felt like bullshit to me. You want Shadow to have a sister? Fine. Show scenes in previous episodes of Oliver trying to track down any family Shadow might have had, finding out that she had a sister who lives in the city, cast a different actress to play her, and then have Oliver go to her for help because Argus is after him and the kid and he doesn't know what else to do. That would be a lot easier to accept than him just happening to randomly bump into a woman who looks more like Shadow's clone than her sister. Was there really no better way the writers could think of to tie the flashbacks into present day with that whole "the truth is a powerful thing" line or whatever the hell it was? That's really fucking weak, you guys. And that goes for this whole episode, too. A long, admittedly impressive action sequence and an admirable performance by Paul Blackthorne could not save this one. A lot of people on social media were raving about this episode. To those people, all I can say is use your fucking brain. The only thing this succeeded in doing was shining a big spotlight on how poorly the Quentin Lynch character has been handled this season. In truth, I saw this coming for a while, and I tried to give them some leeway. I thought maybe they could turn it around and fix it, but I don't think that's possible anymore. Some fans may have thought this was great, but in my opinion, this episode was Arrow's biggest creative misstep of the entire season. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Twitter questions. I said, the CW posts a tweet saying that the fans like Ray Palmer, which gets flooded with replies from people upset that Palmer didn't die, LOL. Pedro Lunion replies, they said the same thing about Laurel. They're desperate about Ray's lack of fans. They can't go ahead with a spinoff. Yeah, you may have a point about that. By the way, that spinoff looks like a hot mess to me. They're cramming every character imaginable into that. Every random-ass character that characters that have nothing to do with each other. I don't know what the hell is going on with that thing. I don't know how it's going to work, but that show looks like a hot mess. At Pedrolunian, season 3, Lance is an idiot, blind asshole. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like agreeing with that, but that's what they've turned him into. It's really unfortunate because he's a character I used to like. They've kind of ruined him. At Pedrolunian says Shadow's twin sister getting someone arrested and having a citywide crackdown without evidence and based only on Roz's word. This is in response to me saying that the episode had a ton of problems. Yeah, this was kind of a horribly written mess. Just a ridiculous amount of problems here, and that you can't really make any excuses for. Normally, Arrow is much better about dealing with stuff like this. I don't know what happened. At Pedrolunian, I bet Diggle shows up also dressed as the Arrow. This next episode needs a huge manifestation of the people against the police. You know, I suddenly have this scenario in my head where like all the people of the Glades show up at the police precinct dressed in Arrow costumes. Yeah, and they're every single one of them saying, "I'm the Arrow." No, I'm the Arrow. Yeah, we're all the Arrow. You know. Might not be too far-fetched, actually. Yeah. But Dig posing as the Arrow, why not? He's done it before. Really? No comments? Huh. Hold on. I wonder if there's something wrong here. It's the first time I've streamed from this computer. I wonder if I forgot to set up something. Come on. All right. Just take a second. I want to... Just want to make sure I didn't fuck something up by accident. Come on. Oh yeah, here's a whole bunch of questions. I don't know why they're not showing up here. That's weird. All right, I will work on that for next time. But in the meantime, I will just take the questions off the laptop. Glad I thought of this. I don't know, you know, what the deal is with this, but I'll try to figure it out. Anyway, here we go. That gaming asshole. I think the nanobots were just designed to be universal healing machines and repair any damage they come across, whatever it may be. All right, I can buy that, I guess. Like those same like those same machines may also heal a broken leg. I can deal with that, really, since nanobots can repair damage like that is so far from realization in the real world that it may as well just be made up anyway, at least for a few more decades. All right, well, if they're just magical, universal healing machines, uh, well, that's basically the medical breakthrough of the century. If you get FDA approval on that shit, or, well, not FDA approval, but you get those things cleared for mass use in hospitals and whatever, well, he really would have more money than God. The doctor thing is inexcusable, though. I won't begin trying to defend that. Palmer is rich as fuck. I'm sure he could pay off the orderlies to just carry him out. Hey guys, yeah, you three. How would you like $2 million each to carry me to that truck and drive me back to my office? I'll write you the check right here. Felicity, bring me my checkbook. Thank you. Why were they trying to play up this weird, this pointless situation for any drama whatsoever? Just check out of the fucking hospital and drive to your lab. If he won't let you, get on the phone, call your personal security staff or whatever to come to just take you out of the hospital themselves. I mean, this is not complicated. What the fuck were they going for with that? I don't get it. And all right, okay, we'll just all right, we'll just do the flash questions here too, because I missed those. That giving asshole. I forgot to add last week. So Cold's sister, whom I'm assuming is Goldface, does her gun make gold or carry gold? I don't know. I was wondering that too. It looks like it was shooting molten gold or something like that, but how does it store the gold? How did that thing work? Dude, I was as confused as you are, man. I was wondering that myself. Because if it makes gold, why on earth are they robbing a casino? And if it carries that much gold, then why are they robbing a fucking casino? Yes! Exactly! I don't know either, man. I was wondering about that shit too. I don't get it either. That's as stupid as that Marvel villain whose name escapes me, who has a gun that can turn anything into anything else. Energy into matter, or lead into gold, or gas into liquid, etc., etc. So he could just point it at a house and become the richest man alive by making it solid platinum. But no, he robs banks. What? I don't know what character that is, but yeah, you're 100% right. Let's see. That giving asshole. I almost forgot about this show. Sorry. It's okay. It's okay. We had to reschedule. I had to work Thursday. That's, just FYI, we're getting into the busier time of the year for me, so that may happen more often from now on. Just for the record. Let's see. That gaming asshole. I assumed that I am the Arrow thing was going to happen at the end of the episode, just everyone saying it at once. Well, it may very well happen in the next episode, dude. That would be one way to get Roy off, I guess. That giving asshole. I think the implication with the Roy as the Arrow thing is that allegedly no one knows what the Arrow really looks like, that we're supposed to assume that therefore no one can tell the difference between Roy and Oliver. Maybe, but again, Quentin should know that they're not the same guy. He's met the Arrow in person, met Oliver in person, met Roy in person, met Arsenal in person. He knows about the height difference. He knows they cannot possibly be the same person. Okay? So at the very least, Quentin would know this is bullshit. Plenty of police must have seen Oliver when he saved the precinct from that attack. They would know the Arrow is taller than this. The only way this works is if none of these police officers use their brains at all. And that's why I hate it. It takes characters that are supposed to, that you would think would be smart, and makes them look like idiots. Take note, this is the exact same concept that inspired Laurel to pretend to be Sarah, who was 3 inches shorter and a couple cup sizes bigger. Yeah. And I guess I guess there is a precedent for that, because Quentin did fall for that one too. So apparently the only real explanation for why he would fall for all this is because Quentin is really stupid. That's what they've made this character out to be, because it's the only way he would fall for this stuff. Gore492. Do you think Roy might die this season? Personally, I think it's the wrong move. Captain Lance is more likely to die by the way things are going. Also, Captain Lance is a dumbass. I think more than likely Captain Lance is going to die. That's what I've thought since almost the beginning of the season. I don't think they would kill Roy. I do think there's a chance they might. I think Willa Holland basically confirmed this. Apparently, Thea is going to get a costume this season by the end of the season. So I assume she's going to be joining Team Arrow. If that happens, and they were going to, it was because she was. If that happens, maybe it's like to avenge Roy or honor his memory or something. In that case, maybe they would kill him off. I mean, if they're going to kill someone on Team Arrow, I guess Roy is the most likely right now. I still, I don't want them to do it, and I don't think they should do it. But I at this point, I could see it happening. I think there's a small chance it might happen, but I really hope I'm wrong. Because that would, no, I don't think that would be the right way to go. Chris Romeo, I can't keep up with all these awesome superhero shows. Ugh. Well, tune into this one. I'll try to help you out. Jacob Walton, I thought Mark Hamill was awesome as the Trickster. He was by far the most entertaining villain this season, so I hope he comes back again. Oh, I hope so too. He was delightful. He was just having so much fun with that, and it was just a blast watching him. He can come back as often as he likes. That was great stuff. Let's see. The Save Me one. The Flash sure had me April fooled. I was going into this episode thinking the new Trickster, the original Sun, but after Mark Hamill take off my mask's performance, they definitely had me second guessing, just to find out he actually was his son all along. Very well played. Yeah, I guess the Sun swerve was kind of obvious, but then they played against it. Yeah. They did that. That was done pretty well. The only thing is, after they reveal that he's a son, they don't really do anything else with it. It is, oh yeah, I am your father, and then that whole angle is never mentioned again, which is strange. So I would have liked a little more explanation for that, but yeah, it's not a big issue. The Save Me one. Quentin is still pissing me off. Good God, the guy was willing to out his daughter as Black Canary, knowing damn well if he did, A, she would lose her job as DA, B, maybe go to jail for years for being an accomplice, and C, get her killed because every criminal in the city will be gunning for her. I said a couple weeks ago, if Quentin could trade Laurel's life for Sarah's, he probably would after this episode. I could be right. I have no argument against it at this point. I think it's more to do with the bad writing and unintended consequences of the bad writing than just Quentin's character. But yeah, the way they've developed him in this most recent episode, he probably would trade Sarah for Laurel if he could. It's just the way it's shaked out. It's really disappointing what they've done to his character. I don't know how you fix it. To save me one, I'm not a legal scholar, but doesn't the DA bring the charges against someone? Oh, but beats me, man. I don't think Laurel is the DA. I think she's an assistant DA. But who knows? So if Laurel can find legitimate excuses not to prosecute, then there's no case. And since Oliver was found not guilty of being the Arrow once, wouldn't him being tried again be double jeopardy? Well, you probably know more about the law than I do. But I guess double jeopardy is being tried for the same crime twice. Yeah. Maybe. Like I said, that whole situation was so poorly handled. There were a million holes in it, and I'm not sure how Quentin could make that announcement to the media in the first place with no evidence to go on. The fact that he did, and that it could be so easily disproven. And this is after Oliver was already suspected of being the Arrow and proven innocent in the first season. I think Quentin has basically shot himself in the foot here. In the event that Oliver gets exonerated, Quentin's career as a cop is basically over, I think. But yeah, I mean, he's doing a lot of reckless and really questionable stuff here, and the guy's not even thinking anymore. To save me one, this episode of Arrow reminded me of the old Batman the Animated Series episode, Death of the Batgirl, where after Barbara's death, Jim Gordon finds out that Batman is Bruce Wayne and uses all of his resources to rain hell down on Bruce, Dick, and Tim. Huh. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but you're right. There are a lot of similarities to that episode. Huh. Although one thing that episode had going for it, they didn't vilify Gordon, and they didn't turn him into a fucking idiot. He was never made to look out of character. Never written out of character, never just written horribly and turned into a terrible character. That's what they've done to Quentin. Ironically, the children's cartoon handled this scenario much better, surprisingly enough. Oh, damn, were these out of order? All right, hold on. Oh, yeah, I was answering these out of order. Okay, sorry. Okay, that gaming asshole. During the WrestleMania stream, a lot of my comments apparently didn't load, so maybe YouTube is fucking up or something. Possibly. That doesn't explain why I'm getting the comments on the laptop, but not this one. I don't know what's going on. I'll fiddle with it. I'll try to get it worked out for next time. Adam Avivi, who is having it worse right now? Barry, Oliver, or Coulson? Probably Oliver. Oliver's basically up shit creek right now. Barry's in a tough position, but at least he's got a leg up in that the bad guy doesn't know that he knows that he's onto him. Coulson doesn't have it easy, but at least he's he's got Lance Hunter working with him. Yeah, so and Sky got away from Real Shield and stuff. So who's got it worse? Probably Oliver. He's got it worse than any of them right now. Okay, Shield question here. That giving asshole, did you already cover Shield and Flash? I covered Flash first. Shield is up next. That giving asshole. My only question for Flash is twofold. One, why did anyone believe the Trickster had a bomb that could level a city? Did they think he had access to a nuke? I mean, I could see that happening, but we have no reason to believe a high-functioning sociopath that just says so. You need some actual evidence. Good point. Yeah. Maybe he had a series of smaller bombs laid out throughout the city. I'm just pulling stuff out of my ass here, but yeah, this is a good point. Honestly, I was enjoying Mark Hamill's performance so much I didn't really think about a lot of the details. But yeah, you make a good point. I didn't think about that. Secondly, why does no one ask about the missing reporter more? I mean, he just pieces the fuck out, and they make up a story about him finding himself some hot girl in Asia and leaving, which I guess I could see, but his family doesn't care at all or ask where he is. Maybe he didn't have a family. Maybe they just didn't want to bother. Maybe that was just an unimportant detail. Like, I can see myself just piecing the fuck out and leaving my shitty job for Knives Chow or whatever. But I would at least call my mom and tell me where I am. Yeah, okay. Maybe they'll cover that in the next episode. Maybe, the guy's family will come looking for him at the paper, and Laurel will be like, oh, he didn't tell you he moved to South America or whatever? That's strange. Maybe they'll cover that later. I don't know. But I guess you do have a point there, yeah. Also, Jesus fucking Christ was the Trickster Jr. mugging for that fucking camera. Wow, I think they wanted to do the whole Joker from Dark Knight thing, but why did they miss the mark? Yeah, the guy playing Trickster Jr. wasn't great, but he was just a gateway to get us to Mark Hamill. Once that happened, Mark Hamill kind of took over, and the kid didn't really do that much. So I was okay with it. That giving asshole. Now, to be fair, I'd trade Katie Cassidy for Katie Lotz too. As would I. As would I. That giving asshole. I could see any lawyer concocting a good enough defense to get Roy off the minute they prove his DNA is not on those arrows, to say nothing of the police exonerating Oliver as the arrow already. In fact, considering Oliver and Roy both have fingerprints on record, I can't believe anyone would authorize the arrest of either seeing as how Ninja Dude's fingerprints and incidental DNA traces must be left all over those arrows. It's ridiculous. Yes, exactly. That's why none of this makes sense. It's one of the many reasons why it doesn't make sense. But then again, in the comics, Oliver was exiled from Star City and forced to live in a park like a bum because a random local judge just decides to do it. I'll just assume, legal scholar or not, that I don't need to explain all the reasons that is basically legally impossible. I wish you'd explain it to the writers, because I don't think they'd get it. That giving asshole. I was assuming that he was going to kill Trickster Jr. until he was revealed that he was his father. Best scene in the series, by the way. But it was implied that he had one giant bomb, which made me tilt my head a bit because I have no idea how much chemical explosive would be necessary to do that. Yeah. Maybe he did get his hands on a nuke somehow. Who knows? Damn it, dude, you're ruining the episode for me. Now I'm thinking about all this stuff, and damn it. All right, you know what? I'm just going to assume that the guy had a big bomb the size of a warehouse somewhere, that he was some kind of explosives expert before he lost his mind, and he built a giant bomb that could level the city. That's what I'm going with. So I can get back to enjoying the fuck out of Mark Hamill's performance in that episode. Okay. Put this down here. Come back to this, and I got my notes on this one. All right. Moving on, finally. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2, Episode 15. One door closes. Coulson and May are on to Bobby and Mac, but they're too late to stop their plans. Real S.H.I.E.L.D. makes their move on Coulson's team, staging a big hostile takeover of the base, during which some pretty awesome stuff happens, actually. Also, Gordon pays Skye a visit at the safe house that Banner built. They have a little chat, and then he teleports her to parts unknown after real S.H.I.E.L.D. attacks her and she levels everything within 20 yards. Meanwhile, Coulson escapes and meets up with Lance Hunter, who now has a pretty big grudge to settle against real S.H.I.E.L.D., and Coulson can certainly relate. This was pretty much the turn equivalent of Season 2. This was the big episode where everything they've been building up to all season finally becomes clear. We get a ton of plotting character revelations, and it sets the stage for a lot of really crazy stuff to happen in the last batch of episodes this season. I may not have had anything as viscerally shocking as the betrayal of Ward was, but it was still a huge game changer as far as Season 2 is concerned. Right from the start, you know this episode is going to be intense. They start with flashbacks to what was happening with the real S.H.I.E.L.D. people during the events of Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And basically, it's death everywhere. The ship is basically a war zone. Mac and some of his people are being held at gunpoint by Hydra agents. One of them dies for trying to help Mac. And then Bobby comes charging in and just takes out every motherfucker in the room, except for one who gets a knife in the back. And then, holy shit, it's Lucy Lawless. She's back. Awesome. And then it just escalates from there. Yeah, they save Gonzalez. We see why he walks with a limp and a cane. And then it gets complicated. Bobby is under orders from Fury to destroy the ship to prevent Hydra from getting their hands on something in there. We don't know what that is yet, but it's important. Problem is, they can't do this without Bobby dying in the process. So an argument ensues, and they finally decide that following Fury's orders might not be the best course of action to take, and they retake the ship on their own without destroying it. And thus, real S.H.I.E.L.D. is born. And it was really clever what they did here, because they basically showed the real S.H.I.E.L.D. members being very heroic. We see why they would come to question Fury's leadership, and thus Coulson's leadership as Fury's chosen successor, and why they would think that having just one person at the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. might not be the best idea either, that maybe there should be more than one voice in the room. And we see them having a great case for all of this. They make really good points. And while this is going on, they're also planting the seeds that will ultimately have them being antagonists in the present day. So we see why they're doing what they're doing. We understand their motivations. We might even agree with some of them. But at the same time, their methods make it hard to get on board with them. So while the Hydra takeover last season was very cut and dry, very black and white, this is the complete opposite. Now, this is a lot more complicated. There's a lot of shades of gray here with the audience knowing that Coulson is the hero because we've been following him this whole time, but also knowing that Real Shield, from their perspective, have very solid reasons to doubt his leadership, to think that he might not be in his right mind, while at the same time, we're not 100% sure if Real Shield are on the level. They make a good case for themselves, and they act altruistic on the surface, but a number of hints are dropped in this episode, subtly, that Real Shield's leadership may have ulterior motives. Gonzalez is very interested in Fury's toolbox, specifically the index of all the superpowered people. Calderon tells Bobby the story of how Weaver fought off an enhanced person that Hydra had with them when they took over the Science Academy. And they didn't tell us that story for no reason. Plus, Calderon and the other members of that tactical team seemed very eager to use lethal force to take Skye down, against Bobby's orders to use icers only, as if killing Skye was always the plan for them. So there's definitely something fishy going on with Real Shield in regards to people with powers. It's subtle, but that's definitely what they're hinting at. So whatever Real Shield's agenda is, it's got something to do with that. And considering what's going on with Skye and the team's differing reactions to her having powers now, i.e. Fitz and Simmons, they're setting up some really interesting situations here. Mac and Bobby get spotlighted in this episode as, this is all coming out of the secret that they've been hiding. And the episode does a really good job keeping them sympathetic. Whatever ulterior motives their leaders may have, they're not a part of that. Even though they do help take over the base, they don't want anyone getting hurt because of the connections they've made with Coulson's team are genuine. And I really liked how that actually worked against them here. Coulson gets the jump on Mac by distracting him when he finally lets him work on Lola, which he's been wanting to do for forever. Simmons actually tricks Bobby into knocking herself out, which, goddamn, Simmons has gotten much better at being sneaky. That was amazing. And then Mac tries to stop Fitz from locking the place down, but then he forgets about that, and he jumps on top of Fitz to shield him when the wall behind him gets blown out by Mac's own people. And then Calderon just steps right over them like he doesn't give a shit. Calderon is a smug prick. At least Gonzalez and Weaver are keeping up appearances. Calderon's not even trying. This asshole is no good. So, while they're planting seeds for Real Shield to become bad guys during the flashbacks in which they're being heroes, they're simultaneously planting seeds in the present day for Mac and Bobby to eventually realize that they're playing for the wrong team. So we see how they would fall in with Real Shield and how the falling out will eventually happen as well. It's a really good balancing act that they pulled off here. The takeover itself was handled great too. I love how all these seemingly unimportant details that the writers seeded into previous episodes ended up being really important plot points. The mini Lola car actually being a scanner that finds the toolbox. Mac asking for the ventilation schematics and aftershocks so he could make sure that Skye wasn't putting out any airborne pathogens or alien shit or whatever. And that was actually just a cover so he could rig the ventilation system with knockout gas. Just a lot of little things that you wouldn't think twice about until you see what was happening here, and then you think, oh, you sneaky sons of bitches. It was great how clever the writing was about all that stuff. But by far, the best part of this whole sequence was Bobby and May. Bobby's getting the toolbox out of Coulson's desk. May confronts her, and Bobby just vaults off of Coulson's desk and backflips through the fucking window. It was so freaking badass. And then they have this fight, about which my only complaint is that it wasn't 20 minutes long. This was like the appetizer for the fight I was hoping for. All right, it was pretty short. And I hope to God that we get an extended one later on, because it was really good. They're flipping and whipping each other all around the place, but they're also wailing on each other at the same time. And they seem really evenly matched, which almost never happens when May fights somebody. And personally, I think it's about time for May to lose a fight. So this was really exciting to me while it lasted. Some really interesting stuff happens with Skye at the safe house, too. When I saw the promo for this episode the week before, I assumed that Gordon was going to show up and teleport her away when Real Shield came for her. What I did not expect was for him to show up earlier and just knock on the door so they can have a friendly chat. So it's fun how they went against expectations there. Because I was expecting him to show up at the 11th hour. And then, oh, here he is. Hi, Sky, just came by for a chat, you know? I love their conversation here. Specifically the part about the inhibitor gloves, how Coulson and Simmons told Sky that they were to protect her, but really they might be to protect everyone else from her. I'm half expecting the Inhumans to examine those gloves in the next episode and tell Sky that there were some features built in that could have meant bad things for her that Coulson and Simmons just never told her about. And the crazy part is that this is exactly what Cal told Sky would happen. He told her that S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't going to know what to do with her. They were going to treat her differently. You'll think she's dangerous, blah, blah, blah. And as it turns out, everyone except Fitz and May have essentially proven Cal right. Even Coulson is kind of nervous about her now. You know, he told her the safe house was a place for powered people to just chill out or whatever. He didn't tell her that it was a place that S.H.I.E.L.D. had the Hulk locked up at one point. And then these people come shooting at her, and all she knows about them is what May said, that it's S.H.I.E.L.D. So, as far as Sky's concerned, her own people just turned on her. So Sky now has some very legit reasons to not trust S.H.I.E.L.D. And my guess is, before this is over, she's going to wind up with a few more. So it's a pretty muddy situation Sky is in now, and she's been driven into the arms of the Inhumans. We still don't know what side of the fence they're on. But we know they're going to teach her about her powers, and I can't wait for that after they just started showing how cool her powers can be. Like when she's making the water from the faucet spiral, which was really cool. And then sending out that shockwave when Calderon shoots at her that deflects the bullet and just levels an acre of forest. That VFX shot was fucking gorgeous. They managed to work in some fun relationship things too. Yeah, just a few. Gemma calls Fitz by his first name, which I kind of fangasmed about a little bit because she's never done that before. But yeah, it's mostly a way for her to admonish him and just tell him that she's angry with him. But still, it's a big moment, especially after last week when she said that she had to accept that the relationship was different now. And then the hand holding after the takeover, where they basically make up without saying a word. I love that. It was just fucking adorable. Only Fitz and Simmons could get a moment like that and make it work. And then the stinger. The stinger where Lance Hunter meets with Coulson and finally signs up with S.H.I.E.L.D. for realsies. Yeah, it's probably more about wanting to spite Bobby than anything else. But it's still a really cool moment where after two of the people Coulson thought he could trust the most betrayed him, and now the most untrustworthy person on his team is suddenly the only one Coulson can rely on. I expect those two are going to get into some really funny shenanigans in the next episode, and I can't wait for it. This was probably the best episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. this season so far, man. It's a great episode for Bobby and Mac. And Mac in particular, it was definitely time he got something like this, because he's been a little underutilized so far. You know, it was great seeing Lucy Lawless again, being her badass self. Some really clever writing here. Tons of revelations, a lot of really big things set in motion with the promise of a lot more to come, probably as early as next week. I can't say enough good things about this episode, man. This was terrific. Excuse me. Let's see. Twitter. All right, I said, the only thing that would have made that episode cooler would be if the real S.H.I.E.L.D. were suddenly overrun by an army of Koenigs. And at Striffen19 replies, Age of Ultron tie-in, Koenig LMDs rise up from their oppressive human masters, Night of the Living Koenigs, LOL. Well, that would be an awesome twist, wasn't it? Wouldn't it? The Avengers are cornered by all these Ultron robots, and they're saved by a fucking army of Koenigs. This Patton Oswalt to the rescue. That would be fucking awesome. Oh, fuck. Excuse me. Okay. All right, just bear with me for a second here. I gotta look through everything. These are all out of order again. One arrow. Here we go. First, Jacob Walton. Like this episode a lot. It was cool to see May versus Bobby, and I don't think we're finished with this one too. Oh, I hope not. I want more of those two fighting. I kind of hope it's like May versus Ward from season 1, where they kind of teased that several times over the course of the season before having that awesome fight in the finale. I hope it's like that. Looks to me as Gonzalez interrogates May, we'll get the truth as to why she became the cavalry. Possibly. We may get some more hints about that. But spoiler alert, May's origin as the cavalry is coming up. I believe, I forget which episode it's scheduled to be, but there's an upcoming episode named Melinda. Then we're going to finally find out what the deal was with the cavalry there. So that's coming up soon. Looks like Fitz will quit S.H.I.E.L.D. and Simmons will stay based on that new clip we saw. So maybe Fitz can be the one to find Skye down the line. Yeah. Promos are often misleading. But the promo for next week shows that Fitz leaves the base. And it appears as if Simmons is staying. We don't know why yet. That preview clip hinted at a few things. Oh, damn. Sorry, 1 second. I gotta go take care of this. 1 second. All right, sorry about that. Anyway, we're led to believe, based on the promos and the preview clip, that Fitz leaves and Simmons is staying for some reason. I can't see her wanting to stay with them after they just basically tried to murder Skye. My guess, that's all it is that Simmons decides to stay to spy on them. Because that would be a good way to tie in her previous, undercover Hydra mission. Simmons, her views on the issue of people with powers seem to line up with real S.H.I.E.L.D.'s views superficially, but I think she's going to realize pretty quickly that they're taking things to extremes here that she's not ready, that she doesn't really want to go to, and she's going to realize that her recent behavior has been a little nuts for her, Yeah, but I think she's going to stay to spy on them. That's what I think, anyway. Skye's power scene was pretty cool, but looks like Agent Calderon will live, since he's playing the douche agent of the new S.H.I.E.L.D. and thus will continue to use drastic measures to hunt down the rest of the Index individuals out there like Skye. Yeah, he got stabbed in the shoulder or the chest, like this area here, with like a shard of wood from that tree that blew apart. But I think he's going to live for a little while longer, yeah. because I think Calderon is going to be like the gateway character into proving that real Shield are not the altruistic people they appear to be. I had this theory actually that okay, Gonzalez wants to break into the toolbox for some reason. He's really interested in the Index. Whatever Real Shield are up to has something to do with powered people. They want the Index, and they're trying to break into it. From the sneak peek that came out like the other day, Gonzalez asks Fitz for his help in breaking into the toolbox. Fitz says no. If these guys are going to end up being like the villains, like the big bad, or at least one of the big bads this season, I don't see them just letting him leave like that. I wonder if they're going to make it appear as if they're letting Fitz leave to keep up appearances for Bobby and Mac, who we're still meant to sympathize with, and also for Simmons, who they may think is staying with them of her own free will. They're going to make it appear as if they're letting him leave, and then they're going to, I think they might recapture him and maybe try to force him to break into the toolbox, maybe torture him. I don't know. But I could definitely see something like that happening. And I think it'll be Calderon who does it, if it does happen. So now I'm curious to see what happens at the Hive Academy. Hive Academy? With Weaver and the Hydra attacks, since Agent Calderon and Weaver have two different stories of what happened there. He said something that Weaver was fighting a gifted individual there before he and reinforcements arrived. Yeah, they didn't tell us that story for nothing. Yeah, I would like to see flashbacks to what happened at the Science Academy when S.H.I.E.L.D. fell. It seems like there's a story there, and Weaver's a part of it. Also, with Age of Ultron in 3 weeks, hard to believe it's almost here. 3 weeks, really? Wow, time flies, huh? I thought it was, I didn't think it was that soon. Damn. Do you think we'll see more Hydra or a huge cameo coming up soon, such as maybe the Maximoff twins or Hawkeye, etc.? Hydra, I don't think so. If they're going to tie into the movies, I think they might have something to do with the Ultron or artificial intelligence or robots or something. Best guess would be that the thing that Fury had in that the ship, that secret thing that he didn't want Hydra to get their hands on. Best guess is that might have something to do with Age of Ultron, and that might be how they tie into it. Because I can't see them not tying into it. Maximoff twins, I don't think so. I think if anyone crosses over, it'll probably be Hawkeye doing an appearance. Because Jeremy Renner, that's his name. Jeremy Renner did tease that he might that he was suiting up as Hawkeye again at a time that he didn't expect to. So maybe he was filming something extra for the movies, or maybe he's making an appearance on S.H.I.E.L.D. Either way, I could definitely see Hawkeye showing up. But as for more Hydra, right now I don't think so. I think they're pretty preoccupied with the Inhumans in this real S.H.I.E.L.D. business. I can see Hydra coming back into the arena at some point, though, because they're not done. They're not done with that. The Save Me one. Gonzalez has to be Hydra. We never actually saw him being attacked, and everyone in the room is dead but him. Well, he got fucked up pretty bad himself. And the other guys were dead, but he wasn't going anywhere. He was. I mean, his leg was destroyed. And if he was doing that just to sell, just to sell his cover, I mean, he did a fucking a fucking amazing job. Plus, he seemed pretty determined to see that ship go down, even though the agents were taking back control. And in the preview for next week, it's pretty clear he wants Skye and Coulson dead. Well, all right. Well, promos are often misleading. Well, let's just keep that in mind. We don't really know how it's going to go down yet. I do agree that Gonzalez is up to something. Apparently, his backstory is he left S.H.I.E.L.D. for a while after his wife died, and then he came back with a vengeance and rose, quickly through the ranks. So my guess is the dead wife has something to do with this. Maybe she was killed by someone with superpowers, and he's held a grudge against them ever since. That would be the way that would be my guess. But I think there's something about the wife dying that ties into what he's doing now. I don't know if he wants Coulson dead. I would not be surprised if he wants Skye dead. Because it seems like Calderon and the tactical team were working under the assumption that it was okay to just kill Skye, despite what Bobby thought. And I expect that'll be a plot point in the next episode where she's kind of wondering what the deal is. So yeah, all the stage is set for Bobby to realize that she's kind of backed the wrong horse here. I think she's smart. She's going to realize pretty quickly that there's something screwy going on here. All right, it's Flash. The Save Me one. After seeing how Skye laid waste to that forest, it definitely has me hoping for a Quake versus Scarlet Witch showdown at some point. That would be really fucking cool, wouldn't it? I don't know if there's much chance we'll see it on the show. Maybe a movie. Because, I mean, where else could they possibly do that justice? I mean, no TV show would have the budget or the time to be able to do that fight the way we want to see it. I mean, I'd want just fucking chaos and just throwing shit everywhere, explosions and earthquakes and, the ground falling apart and just moving around all over the place. I want a lot of big, crazy shit happening. You couldn't do that on a TV budget. If they wanted to do that in a movie, fuck yeah, go for it. See, that gaming asshole. Save me one. I hope Gonzalez is not Hydra. That would be so lame. It would just be another spot the mole plot. Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's Hydra. It'd basically just be reusing the same story from last season. And no, I think they're smarter than that. I think it's, instead of like, the good versus evil thing, they're going like a good versus misguided good. Or he might have good intentions, but it's colored by his experiences or something, and he's got he's up to no good, but he's kind of self-righteous about it. And he's kind of fooled himself into thinking this is for the greater good, but really he's doing some bad shit. So I don't think Gonzalez is Hydra. I think he's what he says he is, but he's got ulterior motives that are less than pure. I'd prefer if he's just a mercenary out for himself, if that's where they're going, making him a villain. Not that it's going anywhere too interesting as it is, since we kind of already know the other Latino guy is Mr. Obvious Face heel turn, and possibly also a romantic rival for Lance Hunter. Where do you get that? It seems like Bobby didn't like him much at all. She seemed pretty irritated by him, actually. Romantic rival for Lance Hunter? No, I don't think so. I think, if anything, Bobby is going to kill him. Or if not, she's going to beat the shit out of him. And I think that's as far as it's going to go. But yeah, Calderon, he's going to be the gateway guy into showing us that real S.H.I.E.L.D. are not as altruistic as they appear. Yeah. Let's see, that gaming asshole. They're really changing Quake's powers. From what I remember in the comics, she just shoots out vibrational blasts like Avalanche or Shocker. Not all this matter manipulation stuff. Well, yeah, I mean they are taking liberties here. I mean, she's not an Inhuman in the comics either. But I mean, it's basically the same thing. You know, she's generating vibrational energy that causes the same effect, pretty much. I mean, it comes from a different source. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's they got the gist of it, basically. But then again, the character is far enough away from the comics incarnation. I have no real issue with it. It's just odd to choose a character with such basic powers and then amping them up like this. I hope they don't do what they did with the Invisible Woman. Invisible Woman? Do you mean in the new movie? Have they changed her powers somehow? Um, I hadn't heard about that. I would think a more maybe a better comparison would be Scarlet Witch, because as I understand it, they have changed Scarlet Witch's powers. Apparently, you know, now she has a telekinesis and some kind of mental mojo where she can kind of tap into your worst fears and bring them to life or something like that. I don't know, but they did change Scarlet Witch's powers, which I'm actually fine with, because her powers in the comics are so poorly defined. It starts as like a hex effect, and then it turns into her manipulating chaos magic or some shit like that, and they basically like ramp her up to the point where her powers can do anything the plot requires, which is not it's not good writing. You know, I like it when powers have limits and rules. So if they're kind of making an effort to more clearly establish what Scarlet Witch can do and what she can't do, even if it's different from what the comics. You know what? I'm cool with that. Concurrently, they have changed Quake's powers here, sort of, but it seems like they're basically the same, even if they are kind of ramped up. Yeah, I'm cool with it. It has the same effect. You know, she causes earthquakes. Anything else the powers do is just kind of, it seems like her just directing the powers at a different source than the ground. You know, I'm all right with it. What did they do with the Invisible Woman, though? I'm curious about that. I haven't heard about that. The Save Me one. I saw the sneak peek for the next week's Shield, and all I can say is I can say one thing: Fitz is one loyal bastard. Yeah, I guess we can talk about this. The sneak peek of the first one that came out. Gonzalez basically goes to Fitzsimmons and he asks Fitz for his help in breaking into the toolbox. And Fitz basically tells him to fuck off. And then he says he's leaving. Because no one's a prisoner here. If you want to leave, once you're debriefed, you can go. And so Fitz basically says, yeah, okay, I'm going to start packing up my stuff. So yeah, he's not helping him, which I think is going to backfire on him, because I think they're going to try to force him to help them, but yeah, he refuses to help, and I don't see why he would, because you know, he trusted Mac and Bobby, and they betrayed him, and these people just broke into their base and took out everybody, forcing Coulson to go on the run. You know, they've got May locked up. They say that they're all SHIELD agents, but you know, their actions speak otherwise. So why would Fitz help them? You know, I wouldn't help them either. But yeah, Fitz is a loyal dude. Yeah. Fuck. Damn it. That giving asshole. How did Coulson know that Mini Lola had something different about it again? Well, because he examined it. He probably just, if it was supposed to be like a replica of Lola, he would know what should be there and what shouldn't be there. And that scanner didn't look too hard to find. If you open the thing up, it's right there. And Coulson's smart. He would know that this is not a component you would normally find in a simple remote-controlled car. Plus, he had Fitz examining it, so Fitz could take one look at it and say, "Okay, that part shouldn't be there. That's a scanning device. I'll go see what it's scanning. You can go talk to Mac." I get it. He knows the car inside and out, but why assume this toy car is supposed to be identical to the life-size model? Or was that something they actually said because if it was supposed to be perfect one-on-one replica, that Mac is a genius? I just thought it was. I just thought it was Coulson just trying to act cool. It's not that it's supposed to be like a perfect replica or whatever. It's a remote-controlled car. Maybe if he had suspicions about Mac, he would just open it up and see something that he knows shouldn't be there. It's not a big stretch, That giving asshole. I always wanted Fitz to be a traitor. Really? Huh. I always wanted Fitz to be a traitor. Like after he got injured and started lying for Quake, I really wanted those two to end up together and become villains. Like he'd be a perfect mad thinker now because maybe he regains his intelligence, but he's completely insane now, and Quake falls for him because he's the only one left who doesn't see her as a freak. I think that would really be against both of their characters. I know some people were toying with the theory that Fitz might become evil. To those people, I always said, I don't think you understand the Fitz character very well. He might be upset or even a little resentful that some people don't view him the same way or don't treat him the same way or treat him differently since the brain damage. But it wouldn't be enough for him to go nuts and become a villain. Same thing with Skye. She might be upset enough that people treat her differently now to go with the Inhumans and maybe leave S.H.I.E.L.D., but not enough to become a villain. I mean, she's still the same person. No, it sounds like interesting fanfic, but would the characters really do that? I think it would take a hell of a lot more motivation than what they've had so far. Shit, I mean, if they added, say, Madame Mask, Ward, and Mr. Hyde along with the Mad Thinker and Quake, you could get a presentable version of the Masters of Evil for use in the future. A version of the Masters of Evil that would actually be a credible threat to world peace. Sigh, a man can dream. Well, I mean, I wouldn't rule out something like that. I mean, they got Mr. Hyde. They've got a character who is basically the equivalent of Madame Mask. She's in play now. They are slowly establishing a number of characters that could be brought together at some point to create a Masters of Evil type of faction. It won't happen overnight, but they're slowly adding to the catalog of characters on the show, and sooner or later, those characters might run into each other. You never know. Let's see. The Save Me one. There's a question that has been wondering about with S.H.I.E.L.D. What the hell happened to Billy and Sam Koenig? The last we saw them was in the mid-season finale. Well, the short answer is Patton Oswalt is a very busy guy. I believe one of the last times we saw the Koenigs, Coulson told either Sam or Billy to activate Theta Protocol. We don't know what Theta Protocol is, but the Koenig was not too happy about it. That's going to come back at some point. I assume that's the reason why the Koenigs are not there. Either that, or because they're just out on a mission. Because the reason they disappeared for a stretch of time in the first half of the season is because they were on a mission. They were tailing Reyna. It could just be as simple as that. They're off on some mission somewhere until Patton Oswalt's schedule gets freed up again. Or it could have something to do with the Theta Protocol, whatever that is. But I'm sure that's going to come back. Okay. That giving asshole. They need a better name for Real Shield. Like the highest anti-terrorist military multidisciplinary enforcement reserve. Hammer. Maybe they'll rename it. Maybe we're watching the origin of Hammer. Maybe. The Save Me one. Oh wait, no. That gaming asshole. Why not just have Simmons be a villain? What's wrong with her just being evil or wrong now? Never mind that she's not wrong per se. We defend Quake because she's a character that we like and want to protect, but in reality, she's absolutely right. Quake is a huge threat to the world's security, capable of leveling a skyscraper and killing thousands, so we need to control people like her as tightly as possible. Same with mutants. In Marvel Comics, some of them are cute, precious teen girls with harmless powers like Cloud9. She makes solid clouds that can fly really fast. And some are like Gideon or Apocalypse, immortal superhumans who can kill millions of people with ease. Yeah, we need to control and register, if not outright wipe these people out of existence. That would be genocide. Which is not cool, man. All right, I'll take this point by point. I think what they're trying to illustrate with Simmons' reaction, aside from wanting Fitz and Simmons to be on opposite sides of the Civil War conflict, is that neither side is really right or wrong. I just don't think they really don't have all the facts. I think what the flaw in Simmons' argument is that she seems to view the powers themselves as bad and harmful, and she's not wrong, but the real danger is in the person controlling the powers. If you're a good person and you've got a handle on them, and you know how to control them and deal with them, then the powers can be a source for great good and prosperity and other stuff like that. She's not really thinking about that now. She thinks powers equals death and destruction, which is kind of a myopic view of that situation. Again, she's not technically wrong. Powers are dangerous, but they don't have to be. I think that's what Skye is going to learn when she's with the Inhumans, that if she can learn to control them, they can be very useful and good for things. And, just because she has powers, it doesn't mean that she's going to crack the planet in half, Okay, here's that Invisible Woman thing. That gaming asshole. Sue Storm started out in the comics with basic utilitarian powers. She turns invisible. Very useful power, especially if you make her a badass and give her a killer streak. However, they couldn't do that in those old comics, so she seemed useless and like a damsel in distress. So they amped her up with the power to project invisibility. Okay, that's fine, that's logical. But they still just wanted to avoid making her something other than a housewife and slave to that hated Richards. Then they came up with her creating invisible force fields, which is stupid to begin with, since force is by definition invisible, and a real force field would be completely so, even if struck. Then they made her invisible Green Lantern, and now she's supposed to be so powerful she's the strongest member of the team and one of the most powerful heroes in Marvel, and yet she acts like a housewife. She has never had any characterization that wasn't about her husband's work, or her kids. So instead of changing that, they made her into a character who legit is considered to be as powerful as the Hulk or Onslaught, and gave her kids literally godlike powers too for no fucking reason. Don't even get me started on what they did to Scarlet Witch in the comics. Oh, I don't think Sue Storm is as powerful as Onslaught, or the Hulk for that matter. You do have a point that they have ramped her powers up over the years. I don't know if I'd go that far, but Onslaught, no, she's not that powerful. Scarlet Witch, that did get kind of ridiculous, yeah. How she was able to wipe out the mutant population across all of reality in all of the like different parallel universes or whatever the hell it was. Yeah, they turned Scarlet Witch in the comics into a kind of a godlike Mary Sue character that could just do anything any story required, and I didn't like that. So that's why I like that they're making an effort in the movie to kind of rein her powers in. She's still powerful, but now we know exactly what her powers can do and can't do. So there's going to be limits there. So I actually like that they changed Scarlet Witch for the movie. That gaming asshole. Hawk Girl is going. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. All right. Jacob Walton. Could we see AIM down the line, or does Fox own the rights? No, I think Marvel owns the rights to AIM because they used AIM in Iron Man 3. Remember? I know that was not the version of AIM a lot of us wanted, but they were in there, and they could bring them back. They could just say, "Oh, Guy Pearce was just running like one branch of AIM, and there's all these other people, out there, and they're the ones with like the beekeeper suits and MODOK and all that stuff." But no, I'm pretty sure they could use AIM if they wanted to. And I would be disappointed if we didn't see AIM at some point, because there's a lot of stuff they could do with that. That gaming asshole. I believe they actually said that Sue Storm could kill the Hulk if she put a force field in his head and expanded it. In fact, I may be mistaken, and it was Galactus they said that was about, and not the Hulk. And yeah, she legit fought Onslaught one time. It's fucking absurd. Did she fight on? Did she fight Onslaught? Gosh, it was so long since I read the Onslaught story. As I recall, like literally, like every hero in the Marvel universe was fighting Onslaught at one time, and they couldn't beat him. So I don't know. Maybe they brought the character back at some point, and she fought him then. Who knows? If they did, I didn't read that story. But yeah, if all that stuff is true, then yeah, Sue Storm is overpowered. So you've got a point about that. Okay. I think that's it. So I'm going to go back and check to see if I missed anything. All right. Give me 1 second here. That gaming asshole. I could see a thermobaric bomb that big, basically a fuel air bomb, like a Russian MOAB equivalent. He'd need to be an explosives expert to build it or a genius, but yeah, I could definitely see that being a thing. Let it be said, it's more plausible than anything about Goldface. All right. So we've got one potential explanation for Trickster having a bomb that could blow up the city. I'll take it. And that gaming asshole. All my favorite shows are starting their new seasons now as the comic seasons are winding down. With Game of Thrones just around the corner and MLP already starting this Saturday, I almost forgot that Age of Ultron is coming out in a little while. Yeah, TV is weird, isn't it? It seems like a lot of his shows are having their season finales about now. I mean, the 100 had their finale just a little while ago, which is weird because it was March. I mean, don't shows usually have their finales in April or May on network TV? How to Get Away with Murder had their finale, I think, in like February. And a bunch of other shows too, which escape me at the moment. But a lot of shows ended really early this season. I don't know why. Who knows? But yeah, Game of Thrones is back soon. Very excited about that. I still have to start A Feast for Crows. I have the book here. I haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm a little nervous about starting it because those books are like running a marathon. I read the first 3 books, but God, those things took me a long time to finish. Yeah. Yeah, and Age of Ultron is very soon. I didn't realize it was that soon. Awesome. That saved me one. What do you think about Hawk Girl joining the Arrow Flash spinoff, and what do you think about Stephen Amell being cast as Casey Jones in the Ninja Turtles 2 movie? Hawk Girl and the Arrow Flash spinoff. That show sounds like a mess to me. I went over this earlier, but they've got so many random ass characters in that show. I don't even know what it's about or how it's going to work or anything, but or who it's even going to focus on. You've got Ray Palmer, Professor Stein, Captain Cold and Heatwave. You've got Katie Lotz in there somehow. Now they're putting Hawk Girl in it. What do these characters have to do with each other? I have no clue what's going on with this whole thing. It feels like a mess to me. Stephen Amell being cast as Casey Jones. I'm cool with it. You know, they need a guy who can do action scenes well and who can You got like stunt training or fight training or whatever. He fits the bill. I think it's cool casting. It's Casey Jones. He's not a character that requires a Shakespearean level of acting talent. He's just some costume some masked vigilante with a backpack full of weapons and stuff. Stephen Amell can do that. I'm cool with it. I think that'll be fine. I hope it's a little better than the Ninja Turtles movie this past summer was. I mean, I went kind of easy on that movie just because it's the Turtles, and I can't hate the Turtles. I grew up with the Turtles, although I acknowledge that was not a very good movie, and it's being generous. I hope it's better than the first one was. Just gonna try to hope for the best on that one. That gaming asshole. Hawkgirl is going to be on the show with Firestorm, Adam, and Sarah, eh? Why not just add the Spectre and Constantine, and hell, just bring in Imperiex as a supporting character? Why don't you? Christ, that sounds like a clusterfuck. Yeah, a big, giant clusterfuck. Sums up my opinion on it right now. Is there anything else? That gaming asshole. Any thoughts on Fast and Furious 7? I thought it kicked ass. Have not seen it yet. I'll probably see it at some point. I was working this weekend, didn't have a chance to go to the movies. I do enjoy that series, though, even though they are kind of playing fast and loose with the laws of physics at this point. They're fun movies, though. I'm sure I'll see it at some point. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, though. Excuse me. That gaming asshole. What would the spin-off be called even? JSA? Justice League Elite? Red Hood and the Outsiders? I don't know. Secret Six? Even though there are probably more than 6 characters shoehorned into there by now. I don't know. I don't think the writers know yet. We're just calling it the Arrow Flash spinoff. About 50 different characters from both shows shoehorned in. Who knows, man? Who knows? And that is the wrong mouse. I think that will do it. Yeah, I think I got to everything. I'm sorry if I missed them. These things are often out of order because Google Plus likes to fuck with me. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I don't know why the comments wouldn't show up on this computer, but I will work on that, and I'll hopefully have it resolved by next week. Is Gotham back next week? Oh, Christ. I don't know. I was kind of hoping I would have another few weeks without Gotham, because you know what? It's been off for a couple weeks now. I don't miss it. I have not missed Gotham at all. And I'm looking forward to the season being done so I can stop reviewing it. I'm going to finish out the season, and then that's it for me in Gotham. And I am divorcing myself from that show, and I'm looking forward to it. But Shield is next. Shield is back. Is also next week. We got a new Shield. I heard that Arrow and Flash were off next week. I don't know what's going on there. I think Charlie from Emergency Awesome said that. I don't know. I'll find it. But we got at least one show next week. So I'll be back presumably on Thursday unless I'm working, in which case I will reschedule for some time over the weekend. Although this time of year I start getting busy on the weekends and I often have to work Fridays and or Saturdays and or Sundays. So I don't know how all that's going to work, but I'll find, if I can't do these things on Thursday, I'll reschedule for sometime during the week, and then I'll post a notice about it. Until that time, I will continue doing these shows on Thursday until the season is over. So I hope you will join me next Thursday as we do this all again. Thanks everyone for joining me. Peace out.